Hi, good morning. Committee on Parole is called to order. Today is Tuesday, July 18th, 10:53 a.m. My name is Brendan Kelsey. Along with me is Mr. Alvin Roche, Mr. Pete Freeman, staff and support of seat at DOC headquarters in Baton Rouge. Our remote location is DCI with staff and support there. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Dusty Bickham, Warden.
Felicia Johnson, classification. Ashley Bradley, records.
Jamie Duvall, mental health.
Terry Grady, Director of Nursing.
And Donald Cavalier, our classification manager, is here too. And that's it.
All right, Warden, thank you. Thank you. We ready for our first case?
All right, sir. Come sit down, Coop.
All right, please introduce yourself, state your name and DOC number for the record.
My name is Jack Cuccia, Cuccia, DOC number 231548.
Okay, Mr. Cuccia, my name is Brendan Kelsey. Along with me, Mr. Roche and Mr. Freeman will be your panel. Explain the process to you, read some information to the record, have a parole interview, ask you some questions. You can respond at the end. You can make a statement. We'll take a vote. You understand the process?
Yes, sir.
And then we have Joey Marie Futch, who will, in opposition, who will be making a statement at the appropriate time. Jack, could she give DOC number 231548, third class offender, parole eligibility 1/17/2024, good time 4/22/2033, full term 1/17/2034, 30-year sentence for manslaughter, habitual offender law. Does that sound correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, would you answer Mr. Freeman's questions, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how old are you?
I'm 69.
Okay, and how long have you been in prison on this charge?
I'm 19 and a half years.
Okay. What's your educational level?
1 year of college.
Tell me what went on, Mr. Cuccia. What was this about?
This was a situation, it was just a bad situation. Lucy had, I'd run into her earlier that night, and she asked me if I could help her out and lend her a few dollars, and I gave her a few dollars. I went home, and around 1 o'clock that morning, she called next if she could come stay over, and I told her no, it was too late. And she insisted and insisted. She said she didn't have a place to stay. So I said, look, you could stay a day or two until you get things situated, but then you're going to have to go then. So I went and picked her up and brought her to the house. I had a girl that was staying with me that was a friend, a housekeeper. She took care of my dad and all that. And that night, after I picked Lucy up, Lucy was with these two other guys that I knew vaguely, but I didn't know them personally. I just knew them by sight. And the lady girl that stayed with me started screaming, "Call 911! They're trying to steal your car." So I hurried up, ran outside, and she said the guy took off and ran across the street. She goes, "I know who he is. He's got a ponytail, but I can't think of his name." So I went looking for him and couldn't find anything. My neighbor called the police. The police came by and took a report, and that was that. So I went in back into the house. This was about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning now, and I wound up going to sleep. And I told Lucy, you could stay in one of the bedrooms. I had an extra bedroom. You could stay in there. And then that morning, about, I'd say 8:30 or so, the girl B that stays with me, I'm custodian over her. She has some mental issues, and I have authority to, I get her Social Security check comes to me in her name. She has certain medications that I give to her because she'll take them all at one time. And she asked me for some for medication, and I went to go look for it, and I couldn't find it. I looked around, I told her, I said, "B, I don't know where it's at. I'm gonna have to check again, but I'm pretty sure I put it in a certain spot." And then after, I noticed Lucy had a couple bulges in her pants of her pocket. So I asked B, I said, B, go over there and ask her to show you what she's got in her pocket. And she went over and she wouldn't let B check it. She said, no. And then I said, B, look and see what she's got. And then they kind of struggled, and sure enough, she had her medicine. And I said, see what else she's got. And she said, Lucy said, no, she's not. She was leaving. And that was at the point I said, no, you're not going anywhere. And she had pulled a screwdriver, started heading towards the door. And I hit her one time to stop her, which I regret every day of my life right now. And I didn't knock her out, but it knocked her down. I told B to see what else she had. And when he checked, she had jewelry, she had little odds and ends, cologne, deodorant, chains. And I asked her, I said, what, and she was putting up a scene, and I told B to do all this because she was a female, and I didn't want to personally get involved with having to deal with her. And they were struggling and cutting up, and finally I told B to just let her go. So she went outside and she started hollering outside, saying that I beat her and all. The next door neighbor called the police. The police came over, and she told the police that I had tied her to a chair, and that I had beat her and I had robbed her. So the police came in and they checked everything, and they saw that it was that I was telling the truth. And well, what it came down to is they went ahead and said, look, we don't know what you're saying this, she's saying this. An ambulance came. They checked her out. She had no non-life threatening injuries. So he said, look, I'm gonna give y'all a simple battery summons. Y'all go to court and y'all handle it there. So they wound up taking her off to a place where she wanted to go to. That night, the next door neighbor that stays next to Lucy and her boyfriend heard her and her boyfriend fighting, and heard Lucy get thrown against the wall. And she started screaming afterwards, look what you did. You threw me against the wall. You stole my money, my certain different stuff to go buy that sick crack. And about earlier that morning, they found Lucy in a coma. They took her to the hospital. They did surgery, and she wound up dying a day later. They asked the neighbor how, does this happen on a regular basis? And she said, yeah, her and her boyfriend would fight all the time. The courts determined that what I did did not kill her, but it was a contributing factor. It contributed towards it. And that's what pretty much I got charged with, was contributing factor towards her death. I regret totally what happened. I paid restitution. I paid the family.
So wait, let me ask you a question. The only time that you hit her was in your house, and then she died the next day?
4 days later.
4 days later.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
she went into a coma.
After she supposedly got into a fight with her boyfriend.
So you had nothing to do with that fight?
No, sir.
What happened to her boyfriend?
Nothing.
Okay, were you on drugs, alcohol when this took place?
I had taken some, yes, sir.
What did you take it?
I had done some cocaine.
So they charged you for manslaughter. That's something that happened. And the cops came, the ambulance checked her out.
And released her.
And then she died 4 days later, and you got charged with manslaughter.
Yes, sir. I was originally charged with simple battery, and they like they said, all the doctors agreed that what happened between her and I would not have killed her, but it was a contributing factor towards her death. which I just regret what I did. I shouldn't have, I should have just
I
let it
agree
go.
with that, but I mean, it's just, I mean, this story doesn't hold water. Let's just put it like that.
Well,
There's
it's all,
You get charged for manslaughter for that. You definitely had to have more involvement.
it's in the report. It's all, there. There's 4 doctors that, agreed that what I did not kill her. The coroner said the blow that killed her happened within 2 days to 2 hours. I forget exact time. It's been a while since I looked at it, but it wasn't even in the time frame that where I had hit her, and that's where they came with a contributing factor. That I contributed.
All right, well, let's move on.
Yes, sir.
You have a lot of opposition from law enforcement. The victims, are opposed, and I think we have one here that's gonna speak today. So we will hear from her. I mean, I read the report and it said the woman was beat from head to toe.
No.
Well, I'm just telling you what the report says. You told me to read the report. I've already read it, and that's what it said. Looking at your adult records, you got charges ranging back to 1973. Real lengthy record, keeping time, speeding, distribution of drugs. You have some, not violence, but you have a gun offense and a simple battery. So you like I say, you got a record back to 1973. So that's a real lengthy criminal history. All of your criminal offenses how long have you been using drugs?
I had used drugs off and on throughout my adult life, but I worked my entire life, and I fulfilled all my obligations as far as work. I didn't. I'm sure there were times where it might have affected my performance, but I definitely didn't let it affect me losing my job or anything like that. I had responsibilities, and I took care of that.
Looking at some of the victims' statements saying that you beat her with a flashlight, you had
Hit it
handcuffed
one time.
her to a chair. That's true.
Sir, a flashlight and what?
And you had handcuffed her to a chair.
I had some toy handcuffs that I told B to put on her to try to restrain her, thinking that she would maybe calm down, that we could talk to her. And they weren't going to hold. She broke right through that. But no, I hit her one time with a flashlight, and I punched her one time to try to contain her because she was insisting on leaving.
We're starting to hit her a little bit more than what we had originally said.
No, one with the flashlight, and then I punched her one time in the stomach. Right?
Okay, you're in medium custody. Your risk score is low. Your disciplinary history. To it, because it's concerning.
Page 32.
21, okay. 32. You have 4 contraband write-ups since 2013, the last one being 12/8/21. What was the contraband?
I just found out something about that just recently. What happened was I was sent to Hunts for medical reasons before I came here, and I was in a cell with they put you in a cell in the Beavers for a certain period of time to you're shipped, and they did a major shakedown, and if they find something in the cell, both people get charged with it. I was totally unaware of some of the things I found out last week that were in there. If you look at my past conduct, I have none of those things on my past record for the last 19 and a half years. I was totally shocked when I saw that. I don't even know how to work a cell phone. I've never talked on a cell phone in my life. I wouldn't even know how to use one.
Okay, you've taken some classes, some substance abuse, living in balance, anger management, a lot of religious classes. What kind of community service have you done at the prison?
As far as community service, I've watched, not really any that I know of. I don't even know how I would do that. I've watched a lot of videos on a lot of different subjects that they give us every night. I watched videos on KA Light, which is we have a choice to select different things to gain knowledge and a lot of things to help us out and being released into the public.
Okay, I see you're a Pride member, correct?
Yes, sir.
You're a member of any other clubs?
No, sir.
What's your transition plan? Where you gonna live? Where you gonna work?
I was going to move in with my sister. She's 80. She lives in Mandeville, and like I said earlier, I've worked my entire life. I have some funds. I'm don't plan on going back to the city. I plan on trying to find a small piece of property in the country with a small house, or put a trailer there, and do things that I enjoy doing. I'd be collecting Social Security at 70. I'm almost 70, so my Social Security check would be around, say, $2,800. It won't be enough to live off of, but I have an IRA and other monies out there. If I need to work, I would do something on down the line, but that wouldn't be my first priority unless I had to do that. But I plan on would get involved in a gym. I like to exercise a lot, fish, and do a lot of the things. Get involved with my daughter. I missed a lot of time with her.
Okay. I have a recommendation for the board. We're complete. I am.
Yeah. That's what I'm asking.
Mr. Cuccia, good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, Mr.
Good morning.
Cuccia.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you. Good morning, sir.
Good. Mr. Cuccia, you spent the last 10 or 15 minutes ingratiating yourself, and you basically didn't do what they said you did. So tell me why you had 4 contrabands, 1 in 13, 1 in 15, and 2 in December of 2021. They sent you to the working cell block in 2015, so that was very serious. And then in 2021, you went to lockdown for 30 days.
No, sir. They said that I asked if I was sentenced to anything. They said,
I'm looking at the record right now. You went to
Yeah.
lockdown for 30 days in 2021. So don't make like you an angel. Just tell us exactly what it is and try to stop making things up.
they had to be on the report there. When I looked at it, they said they shook the cell down 2 different times. One at two something in the morning, and then again at 4:30.
Sir,
Huh?
all
Yes, sir.
I'm interested in, you knew about this right up when it happened. It happened on December 2nd, 2021. and you had a disciplinary hearing on December 8th, and you were found guilty. So you knew about him, you just didn't know about him a couple of weeks ago?
I-
You knew about it in December or January of 2022?
All I knew is I had a contraband charge, which I thought was tobacco, and that's what I put, not guilty.
Mr. Cuccia, answer my question. Did you go to disciplinary court?
No, sir. If they said that if we pled guilty, they had over 300 write-ups, and they said if we pled guilty, that they would suspend all the charges to everybody. So everybody there pled guilty that I know of. It sounds crazy, but that's what happened. I wouldn't lie about it.
Warden Beckham, good
Yes,
morning.
sir. Good morning, Mr. Roche.
I'm reading on his disciplinary record, December 2nd, 2021, the contraband write-up, there was 2 of them. And he had a disciplinary hearing on December 8th, 2021. And he went to maximum lockdown for 30 days. Am I correct?
I'm looking at the report now, and yes, he went to the hearing on 12/8 of 21. He was sentenced to 30 days max. It does look like on the report on one of them, it does say suspended, SUP above that.
But it doesn't say it on my report.
Okay.
And then for the other write-up, you got 12 weeks canteen restriction.
12 weeks loss of canteen, 30 days, max.
Yeah. So, okay. Thank you, Warden.
Yes, sir.
You have any other input, Warden?
No, sir. I think y'all been through it all. His record speaks for itself.
Thank you. All right, we'll hear from Ms. Joey Marie Bunch, if you'd like to make a statement.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for asking me.
Okay.
For this opportunity to talk to y'all.
Okay, give us your full name.
My name is Joey Marie Punch. I'm Lucy's daughter. I love my mother and I miss her very much, like he misses his daughter. I miss my mother. We lost a lot of years too. I was 32 years old when I lost my mother. She was a grandmother. She was a sister. She was a daughter, and she was a good mother. She was a good person. You know, she wasn't an angel. You know, just like Mr. Cuccia wasn't. But she didn't deserve what he did to her. You know, he beat her with a maglite flashlight and a rifle, and he handcuffed her. And she had an orbital fracture. I had to take her off of life support. When she died 4 days later, I couldn't take her off of life support until May 5th. She was in a coma that night after having an orbital fracture from his blow that he gave her in the face. And she started having seizures and whatnot, and that was the contributing to her death that he did. And she did have a place to stay. She went over there, you know, like I said, she was no angel, you know, she had thoughts. She went over there to smoke crack with Mr. Cuccia. And that's what they did on occasions. She'd go smoke crack with. She wasn't homeless. She had places to stay. She had a home. She went to go party with him. And things did get out of hand, as he said. Way out of hand, obviously. You know, but he wasn't being nice and letting her have a place to stay. She had a place to stay. She was over there to smoke crack with him. And that's what they did on occasion, you know. It's been hard, you know. 20 years is a long time, but it hadn't been long enough to take the visions of my mother's body that I saw after she was in the hospital. And used to feel like yesterday, you know. And yes, I live in Avita Springs in St. Tammany Parish. And I really would like Mr. Cuccia not to be able to live in Vanderbilt, all possible. It's just too close. I lived there since the 70s. And I look for now, living in St. Tammany Parish, like Steve says he has a sister that lives in Maryville. I wasn't aware of that. I really wouldn't want to see his face around in the grocery store or anything like that. He's taking a lot away from me and my family. I just hope we deny his early release because of, I would like him to complete his things.
All right.
The way he did,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna live with this for the rest of my life.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
thank you.
Hi, Ms. Cuccia, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
I'm really sorry what happened in the situation. I like Lucy. Lucy was a friend. I never knew her that well, and definitely didn't want anything to ever happen to her. And it was just a bad situation, and I'm sorry that it happened. I understand her kids. Anybody losing their mom's going to be upset, and it's hard. And I'm truly sorry for it. I truly am. And it was just a bad thing. I wish it never would have happened. I would have done totally different. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. Sounds fair to vote.
Yes.
Mr. Pete, Freeman,
Okay, Mr. Cuccia, I'm just saying like it is. I don't believe a word you've said beside that you hit her once, because I think you did hit her once. I think you probably hit her about 20 or 30 times. You have a poor disciplinary record. My vote today is to deny, and you need to somehow look at yourself and take responsibility. The lady was on life support. She just didn't go back to the hospital and die 3 days later. So my vote is to deny.
all right, Mr. Roche.
Mr. Cuccia, based on a general disciplinary conduct that's totally unacceptable, 2 contraband write-ups in 2021, you went to extended lockdown for 30 days. The victim's family is adamant to oppose law enforcement opposition, an extensive criminal history. You have high needs in substance abuse and you need some treatment. My vote is to deny your request.
Yes, sir.
All right, 2 votes to deny, also going to vote to deny your parole for the same reasons as stated. 3 votes to deny, your parole's been denied today. Thank you.
Mic check, mic check. New mic and new camera setup. What do you guys think? This guy is a real character, I gotta tell you. My favorite warden over here. And we'll do a hearing after this. But let's first go over this facts, or let's unpack this. Mr. Freeman with the mic drop over there. He typically doesn't do this, but he's been on fire recently, and I'm enjoying seeing this side of Mr. Freeman actually. But he said, frankly, I didn't believe a word you said except for that you hit her once, but then you hit it 30 times after that. And his story, or like how Mr. Roche jumped in and said, well, you just spent the last 10-15 minutes ingratiating yourself. I want to say, and he goes on and he literally, his story was, it's funny how a lot of these stories start like with this long kind of dragged out. So he said, it's like 3 minutes before he even gets to the point. And he says, well, I'm at my house. I have this kind of like woman who lives there who's like a nanny, and while she has medication, I get her social security check, and I'm like, oh, already I'm thinking, wow, this guy's like a sleazebag. It's like basically taking advantage of this woman, but she has medication. I went to go like look for the medication, and then couldn't find it, and that's when I saw that was Lucy had the bulge in her pants, and then I didn't want to get involved. She's a woman, so I asked her to do it, and she checked, and it was there. And then she tried to run away, and I hit her once. And then it comes down to that. Well, you handcuffed her to a chair. And, oh well, it was fake handcuffs. I mean, she could have gotten out of it, no problem. I mean, I was just trying to keep her still. Well, you hit her with the flashlight. Yeah. I it was just one hit with the flashlight, and then I punched her in the stomach. And it's like, first of all, dude, she literally, oh, wait. Okay. Then he says that she left, kind of everything's fine. No, everything's fine, right? The cops came. The cops believed him. It was his word against hers. She went back, and then that her boyfriend is the one who did all the damage. Now remember, was the one that a jury found guilty. And he should, after spending 19 and a half years locked up, you would think that he would be smart enough to just say whatever he had to say instead of making up this really bizarre story. Now, when you do look over the legal documents, you almost could wonder if there are a lot of, it's not so crazy clear cut, and you almost wonder if a different jury or a different lawyer maybe could have muddied the water a bit more. So it is not a simple. Let's see if I can get this here. I'm not using my new computer. I'm using actually my kid's gaming computer, and I have the different mic, but it's so much faster than my laptop. My laptop really has just gotten to the point where it's not usable. And this is just amazing how quick it is. So it's a long report. I'll include the link in the description. But it wasn't so simple because basically, it seems that she did end up leaving, and she didn't want to go to the hospital, and the paramedics didn't force her to go, although they thought that she should have been forced to go. And then eventually she ended up going to the hospital, and yeah, she looked like a mess, but she ended up going after she had gone back to her boyfriend's house. And then the doctors discharged her. And it was only then after, when she was on her way home, that she started having seizures, and that's what led to. So you could argue the unknowns between her leaving and the idea that they never forced her to the hospital, and the ideas that she was discharged. So it's not a clean case. Not that I believe that he's innocent in any way, but it's just not a clean case. And she was, a complete addict, and she had lots of problems. But here, I'm just skipping ahead a little bit, but the New Orleans police officer, Ashish Shah, testified that approximately at 1 p.m. on May 2nd, 2003, he responded to the 9/11 disturbance. So this is at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Upon arrival, a female outside whose first name was Lucy. Lucy had blood on her shirt, on her face, upper head area. She reported that she had been involved in an altercation inside an individual identified as Jack, and that he had beaten her. The individual identified as Jack informed the officer that, in fact, he had been in an altercation and that he had struck Lucy. Officer Shaw issued a municipal summons to the defendant. Lucy refused EMS treatment, and Officer Shaw relocated her to a residence on Fortin Street for her own safety. Lucy's face was a little bruised. Officer Shaw said on cross-examination that Lucy appeared excited and emotional. The officer said he could have arrested defendant on a state felony offense of aggravated battery, second-degree battery, but that because of the circumstances, he chose to issue the defendant a summons. So you see there, it's right there. You would say, oh my, is this not enough for a jury to have acquitted him? Because it just doesn't seem like they didn't think she even needed to go to the hospital, and he didn't even think he needed to arrest her. So it does sound very different than the parole hearing we just saw. And I don't like this guy at all. I don't like Mr. Freeman said, I don't trust him. And let's look at also certain things. The warden, and I love this warden. He basically said no comment. You see what you see, and he had all those write-ups. And it's like he didn't do himself any favors. Really, is what it is. And I don't. And he just kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies. But it is sad that he's almost 70 years old. He seems to be relatively doing financially well. He has an IRA. He has money aside. He's not, he's in the position where if he gets out of prison, he said he can go buy a piece of land, put an RV, and fish, and just enjoy his golden years. And even with all of that to look forward to, he still can't help himself. He can't get out of trouble. He can't. It's like he's still like, just failing completely. And it's hard to understand. All he had to do is do his time well, and he would, and he has something to look forward to. They do go through more details. And again, I'm not going to spend so much more time on this, only because we want to do another hearing. And it's just a lot of details from the court, but it is interesting. I find it interesting. Jacob Oberman, a paramedic with the City of New Orleans EMS, testified that he responded at approximately 1:30. He recalled a female with a blood-soaked shirt, and here he recalled that she had a laceration, hematoma on the top of her head, and a pragmatic area. Sermon stated that he informed the victim she might have sustained an occult or hidden injury, the result of which could be paralysis, infection, or even death. However, she declined treatment and did not fit the criteria necessary to transport against her will. I remember, they have to say this so that they're not liable, right? It's you just gotta feel for the police and the paramedics. They see what probably looks like a crack head, and they see this all the time, and there's just only so much they can do, right? And they're exhausted. Oberman noted that the victim's past medical history of hepatitis C, HIV, and intravenous drug use. So she was not a healthy person, to say the least. He confirmed on cross-examination that the trauma to the victim's head was not so severe that it impaired her judgment. Not so severe. See that? And that she would have been transported to the hospital, such that she would have been transported to the hospital. She did not have a staggered gait or appear dizzy or foggy. Oberman said he believed documented. So the victim was not actively bleeding. So, really, I mean, you take into the fact that she was spent time afterwards. She didn't get to the hospital until 10 hours later. And in the streets, it's very possible that someone else would have beaten her up, right? The left side of her face was black and blue. She had blood on her nose. Her mouth was crusty. Her arms were bruised. She appeared that Lucy was having seizures. It's just, you would think that a different attorney could have gotten him off, really. To me, there's enough uncertainty. But I don't know. And I think the bottom line is that he was unlucky that she died, because otherwise, if she lives, he just had a summons. I mean, he wasn't even taken into the police car. But then once she went, doctor arrived at cause of death based on his autopsy that the medical records reviews. He said that Lucy died as a result of severe brain injury sustained from a rather forcible blow delivered to the left side of her skull and her head. He classified the death as a homicide and asked whether a crack in the head by a flashlight could have caused the injury. He said it was possible. When asked whether the injuries could have been caused by someone using a pellet rifle seized from the defendant's home on the victim's head, he replied, it could be possible. Of course it could be. This is like a classic court, Again, I feel like a good attorney could have created incredible amount of uncertainty here, only because of the cookie trail that the police didn't think it was severe enough. The paramedic didn't think it was severe enough. Even when she went to the hospital, they didn't think it was severe enough. And you could argue that all of those people failed her. But all of this being said, I still believe that he was the only one culpable. I'm just not sure that as a jury, I would say that it was without any doubt, because a lot happens in the streets in 10 hours. So I don't know. How do you feel? You think that he was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt to get 20 years in prison? I mean, I do believe he's guilty in reality. Absolutely. And I don't like him. Okay, so let's go do another hearing. Let's see what we should do. And if you can give me feedback in the comment section, because I don't know if I'll stick with this angle, this view, is the lighting even. Maybe I need to improve that. I need to figure it all out. But I do like using these computers. This computer, it's so fast. And what about the mic? I mean, I guess I'll have to listen to it afterwards. How the mic is working. So let's go to I don't know, let's go to I think we can do like a parole revocation hearing. How about that? Okay. All right. One, two, three. Let's go.
The Committee on Parole is called back to order. The day's date is July the 10th. The time is 8:55. Our remote location is River Bend Correctional Center. First case is going to be Mr. Michael Joseph, which is a revocation. Mr. Joseph, would you give us your full name and DOC number, please?
Michael Joseph, 442-742.
Mr. Joseph, is there anyone there from River Bend in the space where you are now?
No, sir.
All right. Mr. Joseph, let me explain what we're doing here. This is a parole revocation. I'm going to read some information into the record. We're then going to cover your revocation questionnaire. I'm going to read the allegations against you, and then we're going to have a hearing. You'll have an opportunity to plead guilty or not guilty to the allegations, and then we'll have a hearing. You have several people here that are willing to testify on your behalf or here to support you. Gertrude Polk, Mary Joseph, and Joshua Joseph are present here to support you. Do you understand our procedure, sir?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Joseph, do you have your probation revocation questionnaire in front of you?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, let's take a look at it if you would, sir. Is that your signature at the bottom of the page on May the 4th of 2023?
Yes, sir.
Now, all those questions accurate, all of those answers to the questions, were they accurate when you filled that out?
Yes, sir.
Are they still accurate today?
Yes, sir.
Do you have an attorney, Mr. Joseph?
No, sir.
Are you willing to go forward today with your revocation hearing?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to read you the allegations against you. Number 4, you engaged in new criminal activity on February the 19th of 2023, which resulted in your arrest by Lake Charles Police Department for the charge of domestic abuse battery. On March the 14th of 2023, the charges were amended to disturbing the peace by fighting, which you pled guilty to at the 14th JDC. How do you plead to that, sir?
Guilty.
And I assume with the statement, is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Joseph, your case has been assigned to me. I'll begin the interview process. My notes reflect from your file that you were paroled on September the 28th of 2022 on the charge of manslaughter. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then you were arrested on February 19th in Lake Charles for domestic abuse battery. You indicated that you plead guilty to that and you want to make a statement. So tell us what happened on February the 19th that resulted in your arrest and your ultimately plea to disturbing the peace.
Well, I was in a relationship and I got caught cheating. And things just blew up. The woman I was with.
Well, let's slow down a little bit, okay? How is it that you were with the victim in this case on that particular day?
Well, she had drove from New Orleans to come to Lake Charles and called me with
And that's Miss Gertrude Polk?
Yes, yes, sir.
She drove from New Orleans to Lake Charles for what purpose?
To come see me.
Okay, and you were living in Lake Charles?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so tell me what happened when she got there or before she got there. Tell me how all of this started.
Well, I didn't know she was coming. And when she pulled up at the house, I was with another woman.
Oh, okay.
That's when everything took place. You know, I was.
Tell me what took place at the time. You were inside your residence?
No, so I was outside.
Okay.
I was outside and she pulled up, saw me with the other woman, jumped out the car, and we just started fighting. She just attacked me. She just got off on me. And what I did, I turned around and backhand her. And next thing you know, the police was pulling up. I don't know who called the police. I don't know how they got there that quick, but I mean, I regret it. You know, it's something that shouldn't have happened. I'm remorseful. I apologize to Ms. Polk. This is not something I'm proud of. You know, this is not who I am as a person. I know that parole is a privilege. And I woke up every morning from the day I made parole, and I treated it as such. I worked hard every day. I look forward to working hard every day. My hard work was just beginning to pay off. You know,
How long had you and Ms. Polk been in a relationship?
And we've been together over 30 years. I was with Ms. Polk when I caught my manslaughter charge.
Prior to her coming to Lake Charles to see you, when was the last time you saw her?
It had been like 3 weeks. She would come to Lake Charles whenever she had the weekend off.
Now, when she pulled up in the driveway and saw you with this other woman, whose residence was that? Is that where you were living?
Yes, sir.
Now, tell me a little bit about what you were doing after you paroled. You paroled out in September of 2022. This happened in February of 2023. Were you working?
Yes, sir.
Where were you working?
At McDonald's. And I was,
Hours a week were you working at McDonald's?
yes, sir. I was striving. In fact, I was just up for a promotion on the job. You know, I worked hard. I had an earned employee of the month already since I had been working. You know, it
Were
was
you
an
in
op-
good standing with your parole officer?
Yes, sir.
And what were some of the conditions of your parole? Were you to get substance abuse, anger management, anything like that?
Yes, sir.
And were you doing that?
Yes, sir.
What were you taking? What programs were you taking since your parole, since you got out?
The substance abuse. And it was the AA meetings. It
And
was
how often were you going to AA meetings?
twice a week.
Were you drinking on this particular day?
No, sir. No,
You
sir.
got drugs on this
The AA
particular?
The I don't drink. And the AA meeting wasn't for a drinking problem. In fact, when I made parole, I was before this board. And it was because I told y'all when I made parole about the money addiction. And that was the reason why.
So there was no alcohol or drugs involved in this?
No, sir.
Were you angry at her?
No, sir. She was angry at me. You know, I was the one called cheating. You know, and like I said, I regret it. You know, it was just, I feel like everybody has problems in their relationship. I should have been honest with her from the jump. You know, I'm not proud of this. This is embarrassing. You know, I never.
Let me ask you this. Have you had any contact with her since you've been in prison?
No, sir.
She's here today. Do you have any idea what she's gonna say?
No, sir.
So you haven't talked to her? No one's talked to you on her behalf or anything?
No, sir.
Any questions?
I,
Go ahead.
you might answer. Good morning, Mr. Joseph.
Morning.
This was the only violation alleged against you. So apparently you were doing the things that you were supposed to do up until this incident happened.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the current status of your relationship with Ms. Polk today?
We're no longer together.
Okay, and you expect that that's going to be what it's going to be going forward, that you all are going to go your separate ways?
Yes, sir. We have a grown son, so I don't need to be in contact with her to keep in touch with my son. My son is 26.
Right. Okay. You know, you and Miss Polk are not married, so you're both free to do whatever you choose to do. But honesty in a relationship is important.
Yes, ma'am. I agree.
You know, I read the police report and it looked like it was a little bit more than just a backhand slap across the face. There was a witness who told the police, and probably that person is who called law enforcement, that they saw you punch her with fists several times, and her face was swollen, and there was obvious indication to the police officer who came out that she had been struck more than just by a slap across the face. But be that as it may, what have you learned from this experience?
For one, I've learned keep my hands to myself and to always be honest. Honesty is the best policy. This is truly a wake-up call. You know, my life is on the line. You know, I just finished doing 23 years. I never thought I'd be back in this position. It's definitely an eye opener. And I just beg that y'all have compassion to just give me one more chance. I can, and I know I will do better. You know, I'm thriving. I'm a work in progress. I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. But.
All I hear you, Mr. Joseph. Ms. Maribel, that's all I have.
Hey, Ms. Wise?
So if you were successful today and you were released, where would you live?
In Lake Charles
With who?
with my brother.
Okay, and how would you support yourself?
But my job is still on the table. I was working so good, they actually holding my job in hopes that I was released.
Okay, as best they can, huh? So you would live with your brother and work at McDonald's if you're successful today. What would you do about relationships? What have you learned about relationships going forward?
Right now, I'm not trying to be committed. I'm trying to focus on myself, get myself together.
Do you have any grandchildren?
No, ma'am.
All right, that's all I had, Jim.
Thank you very much. Now we'll hear from those here to speak on your behalf. We'll hear from Ms. Gertrude Polk. Ms. Polk?
Hello?
Yes, ma'am. If you'll introduce yourself, please, and tell us what you'd like us to know about what happened that day.
My name is Gertrude Post, and on the day prior to the incident, it was just something that just transpired. I rolled up on him to see him, and he was cheating. He just wasn't being honest with me. So I felt like it was just time for me to just show up. And when I showed up, that's what I saw, and I attacked him. I mean, we don't have any we don't talk, we don't have any communication. I just then, when I talked to the DA was just like, he's not gonna be, reprimanded. They were gonna release him. I live in New Orleans. He live in Lake Charles. We have a grown son together. We don't have to see each other. But I just don't want to see him in jail. I do want him to, to be able to live free.
Let me ask you this, ma'am. How badly were you injured?
It wasn't bad, and he didn't punch me. It was just his reflex. It was his reflex. I attacked him when I jumped out the car. The car was actually moving when I jumped out of it. So when I jumped out the car, then it just went from there. He was just defending himself. I'm not trying to make excuses for what happened, because what happened, but yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions?
No.
Okay. Thank you,
Okay.
Ms. Polk. Now we'll
Thank
hear
you.
from Ms. Mary Joseph. Ms. Joseph, are you there? Not connected. All right, how about Mr. Joshua Joseph? Sir, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, we can hear you. If you would please introduce yourself and tell us what you'd like us to know about your brother.
Good morning, Your Honor and staff. My name is Joshua. I represent McDonald's Lake Charles. I run 2 restaurants out here. I want to speak on the behalf of my brother. He came a long way. He accomplished a lot at the restaurant. He was on a elevation to be demoted to a department manager. I also have with me his certificate, his serve safe, so he can serve. Make sure that the food is being served correctly at each restaurant. I do suggest to him that he put a stay away order or whatever the case may be when it comes down to relationships, and if it causes a problem, that's what he need to do. He do need to focus on himself. I agree with him. He accepted that. I think that he know what he need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. We appreciate your comments. Have we gotten Miss Mary Joseph? Okay, Miss Mary Joseph? Can you hear us, ma'am? Ms. Joseph, can you hear us?
She's not.
I lost her.
He's trying to connect to audio. Yeah, it may be.
Ms. Joseph, can you hear us?
She may not need to speak because she probably don't know how to turn on the mic, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
That's your mother as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, Mr. Joseph, is there anything you'd like to say before the board votes?
Yes, sir.
Oh, she's on phone. We'll listen to her. She's got anything to say.
Yes,
Hang on,
sir.
Mr. Joseph, your mother is on the phone now. I believe we can hear her. Ms. Joseph, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, tell us what you'd like us to know about this case and your son, please.
The only thing that I know that he had an altercation with Gertrude. And when I found out about it and that he was locked up again, it kind of like really hurted my heart because I didn't know him to be that kind of person because hitting somebody. I know that's not him. It was shocking to me. And I'm just asking for him to have another opportunity to get a chance and for him to get it right because he wasn't raised like that. And that just was shocking to me to know that happened because he knew I had mental stuff too. So yeah, that was just shocking. So I'm just asking for him another opportunity because I know sometimes being incarcerated for a long time like that, he has to get himself like really established, and far as like just focusing on himself. I think it was just to the extreme, like just coming out being free. He had to get adjusted to it, and he was really being favored.
Thank you, Ms. Joseph. We appreciate your comments. Mr. Joseph, why don't you go ahead and finish up your statement to us and then we'll vote.
Yes, sir. I'm just asking for the board to have compassion. I am aware of my mistake. I've truly learned from it. This is definitely an eye opener. Like I say, I've done over 2 decades already. I've lost 2 decades of my life. I just want the opportunity to do right. I want to make people proud. This is not who I am as a person. I am not a mess up. I am not a mess. I can make it. I truly can. I just ask that y'all have mercy and just give me another chance.
All right, Mr. Joseph, thank you very much for your comments. Board ready to vote? Mr. Joseph, I've listened to what you had to say. I read the police reports, listened to Ms. Polk. I think this was more significant than either of the two of you suggested it was. I think that, a lot of this was caused by you. And you didn't know she was coming, but you were in some sort of a relationship with her. You weren't being honest with her. And I believe probably when she drove up, you would hit the fire, Everybody got all upset and angry. You hit her a lot more than what you suggested that you hit her. I think it was a situation that could have been avoided by your honesty. And maybe some counseling or something on your part. You had done all right on parole. You'd only been out a very short period of time before this happened. You were at home, I assume, minding your own business when this developed. So there are some circumstances here that I can understand that led to this. But what you did was a crime. And my vote today is I'm not going to vote to revoke you, but I'm going to add as a condition of your parole that you attend a 26-week DBOC program, domestic violence program. It will teach you some things about anger. It'll teach you some things about decision making. It may teach you some things about relationships as you go forward. It sounds like you've been fairly honest with us today, and I think you've learned a lot from this horrible mistake that you made. So that's my vote, and I'm only one of three. So we'll wait and see what everybody else says. So, Ms. Jackson?
All right, Mr. Joseph, my vote is the same. I think you have learned from your mistake today. And so my vote would be to do not revoke, return you to supervision with the added conditions of domestic violence programs.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Wise?
Sir, I must admit, when I read the case last night, this is not my vote. But because the victim is here, she admitted she started the fight. She already knew you was fooling around. She had to come and confirm it, and she came ready. But that's your child's mother. There should be a reverence for her because she is your child's mother. Always going forward, be respectful. Your son needs to see you respecting his mother. That's how he's going to treat women. How you model before him. Be mindful of that. I'm going to take a chance on you as well. I'm going to do not revoke. I concur with my colleagues and complete that DBOC program. You got a lot of education you need to pass on.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. You have 3 votes, not to revoke, but to add as a special condition that you complete the domestic violence program. I hope you can get your job back. Sounds like your brother is ready to put you back to work. So good luck to you, and learn from this program that you're going to. Good luck to you, sir. Is that the only one we have at Riverbend?
Yeah.
All right. We'll be adjourned at Riverbend at 9:19.
Okay, let's unpack that. Interesting. I find it quite interesting. You know, we probably covered his parole hearing because I think they said September of 2022, but I couldn't find it. I wasn't taking the records like I do now. So now I input their DOC in the description so I can just search in my dashboard and find out if I had done it. Now I have to manually do it. And I didn't do everything in order of dates. And I didn't necessarily do all of them. So it's just not simple, but I would love to, if I can find it, I'll merge both hearings, because here's a few things that stuck out to me. He served 23 years and he only just got out and then was revoked. And I don't really believe him. And where I don't believe him is where he claims that he did not speak to her at all or anyone else speak to her. It's just, come on. And he was just too confident. He knew what she was going to say. And that's my takeaway. And they share a son together. How could it not be pressure just from the son to say, come on, just get up and say this? Like, and how would he not know that? And then that he said he backhanded her, while there are evidence from reports that he hit her with a closed fist at least twice. And then even when she spoke, she was like, well, I wasn't hurt that bad. It was my fault. I attacked him. And it's just something I don't understand, hitting women. It's something I've never seen. And so for me, it's just so alien. And I guess if someone does grow up in that kind of environment, it's just a different outlook on it. But I just don't get it. And the idea that someone really just doesn't have the self-control when they're backing. I mean, he might be backing another 25 years. You know, he would get the chance for parole, but you could see he had a lot on the line. Now what they look at is that, well, he was doing everything else he needed to do in parole. He had all, no dirty urines. He's up to due on his fees. He had a job. And this was one moment where he snapped. And really, what good is it to punish him more? What good is it for society? What good is it for him? What good is it? So they threw the condition of completing that program. And I'm okay with the outcome. But another thing that stuck out to me was when his mother says, I didn't, I don't know, she said I didn't raise him that way, but I couldn't believe that he hit someone. And it's like, he just served 23 years for killing someone. So I don't really know what what are you saying? I tried to find the information of his court, but I couldn't find it. So I don't know exactly what the full crime is that he had committed, the details of it. Oh, here's the other thing. I don't really blame his girl for being upset, because if you could imagine, he said that they were together when he went away for the charge. And I could only imagine that she probably did a lot for him over 23 years. And then he gets out and pretty quickly starts cheating on her. And then here he states where he just wants to be. So from her perspective, I wouldn't be surprised if she was strung along for 23 years while he's in jail. And I mean, who knows? 23 years is a long time, but to then get out, and then if I can only appreciate where she was coming from to be pissed off, if that's the scenario that played out. I mean, just imagine if you stick by your man for 23 years and then as soon as he gets out, he's lying and cheating on you. Yeah, I jump out of a moving car too. But that's just speculation, right? Who really knows? But, if he really now can't screw up one more time, because the board will not forget, and they probably won't take it easy on him a second time. But I am wishing him lots of luck. Should we do one more hearing? I think we should. I know that we like to have our hearings a little bit longer than an hour and 13 minutes. I wanted to prepare something. Okay, we could do one more. Okay, let's do one more. Let's change it up a little bit. So we'll do that is the okay. All right, let's go. sorry. This is not working out as smooth as I thought I have. Hold on, now I'm lost. I'm so sorry. I have like multiple tabs open and I'm sharing the wrong tab, I think. Oh. Sorry guys, normally it's a bit smoother. So what do you think of the new setup? How are you feeling about it? What do I need to adjust? If you can put that in the comment section, that is always helpful and appreciated. Maybe I'll do just, okay, let's try something else. Let's see, have we done this one? No. How's everyone doing today? Okay, let's do this one. Oh no, I don't know what it's about, but sure it's good.
Committee on Parole is called back to order. The time is 12:34. Our next case is Mr. Willie J. Ellison. Jr. Mr. Ellison, would you please give us your full name and DOC number?
Willie Ellison Jr., 356139.
Thank you, Mr. Ellison. Let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record, and then the board is going to conduct a parole interview with you. At the appropriate time, we will allow those persons who've indicated they wish to have input to speak. On your behalf today, you have several people here with us, as well as your attorney, I think, is on the line. Currently in our room with us is Mr. Willie Ellison Sr., who will be speaking, Rose Ellison, your mother, who is just present, and Johnny Duncan, your uncle, who is also here. Your attorney, Mr. Justin Harrell, is likewise on the YouTube. Would you make an appearance for the record, Mr. Harrell?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Justin Harrell, and I'm here on behalf of Mr. Ellison.
Thank you, Mr. Harrell. And we also have in opposition Mr. Randy Meyer from the Jefferson Parish District Attorney's Office. This is the matter of, and at the end of that, you'll be allowed to make a statement, and then your lawyer will close out, and then we'll go. You understand our procedure?
Sir.
You understand our process and how we're going to proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is the matter of Willie J. Ellison Jr., DOC number 356139, date of birth April the 21st of 1978. He's classified as a sixth-time felony offender. He has a parole eligibility date of March the 8th of 2023. He has an adjusted good time date of March the 11th of 2060, full term date of September the 8th of 2060. He is currently serving a 50-year sentence on the charges of possession with intent to distribute heroin, where he was adjudicated a habitual offender, possession with intent to distribute heroin, and possession with intent to distribute cocaine. Is all of that information fairly accurate, Mr. Ellison?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Ellison, your case has been assigned to Ms. Bonnie Jackson. Would you please answer any questions she might have?
Sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ellison.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
How old are you?
45.
And how much time have you actually served on this sentence?
On this sentence here is almost served, almost 15 years.
When were you incarcerated on this charge?
I caught this case in 2007. Jefferson Parish came, got me in 2010 from Slidell work release.
So you were serving time on another charge?
I was serving time on an old case in Orleans Parish.
All right, but on this actual case, you've been in prison for almost 15, but you've only served about 12 years on this current charge, correct?
So I think is almost 14.
Yeah.
September 2.
June 14.
Well, yeah.
Be 30. Because what I have is 12 plus. I need you served 12, not quite 13. And so it's not 15. You've served about, it'll be 13 years in September.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
So it's not 15, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, your actual sentence is 50 years, so 12 years on 50-year sentences, not a lot of time.
Yes, ma'am.
I've looked at your record, you've already been told your offender class, and you have 6 felony convictions. And every one of your felony convictions involve drugs. Most of them started out as distributions or possessions with intent to distribute, but you ended up pleading guilty to possession charges.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I showed that in 1995, you had convicted of possession of cocaine. You were placed on probation. That probation was revoked in 1999. You were paroled, and you were revoked 3 separate times on parole on that 95 cocaine charge. In 97, you had another cocaine charge. You were revoked on that one in 2003. In 2004, you had a possession of cocaine. You were revoked in 2005. In 2008, you had 2 counts of possession of heroin. You were paroled on 6/20 of 2010, and you were revoked on 10/4 of 2010. So every term of supervision you've had, you've been revoked on. So first, let's talk about, your drug offenses.
Yes, ma'am.
Obviously, you were involved in drug dealing,
Ma'am, I was a user and a dealer.
mostly a dealer. Everybody wants to say that.
Yes, ma'am.
So when did you become involved in drug dealing?
Since I was probably 15 years old.
And how did you become involved in drug dealing?
Well, first of all, I started out smoking marijuana with my friends who I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
Started out smoking marijuana with my friends who I grew up in my neighborhood. Then it progressed, and I went to following them and doing the things they was doing. It just got worse and got worse as time went on.
When did you stop going to school?
I stopped
For grade. For grade.
Ninth grade.
Okay. And what happened that you stopped going to school in 9th grade?
Got on drugs real bad.
Okay. So, let's talk about the 95 conviction. You ended up with a cocaine conviction. You were placed on probation, given a chance to kind of get yourself together, and you weren't successful on probation. Why not?
During the time I was 17 years old, and we was running around, me and the guys running around, and I got caught with the drugs.
But you were on probation.
I was put on probation.
Right, but then your
Wrong,
probation,
it just was taken over.
but you got
Right.
revoked. My question is, judge gave you a break.
Yes,
Could
ma'am.
have put you in prison, but he put you on probation. And you got revoked. You didn't do what you were supposed to do, and so they revoked you. My question is, why didn't you do what you needed to do?
Ma'am, during that time, I was real young and I wasn't thinking in my right frame of mind back then. Ever since then, it just was a whole lot going on in the family. I was running the streets wild. I wasn't responsible for what I was doing. I had to take full responsibility for it.
But every time you got a conviction, every single time, it ended up being a revocation.
Yes, ma'am. Well, our parole code, if you're on probation, you catch another case, either you're gonna violate yourself or they're gonna violate you.
But the point is, you keep catching cases like it's a cold or something. Why did you continue criminal activity even after you've been to prison multiple times? You get right back out and you go right back to the same thing. I'm trying to understand that.
Well, it's just so much be going on. And when you're younger, you do things that you regret doing. Now that
But in 2020, you weren't younger then.
2020,
2010. In 2010, that was 15 years later.
15 years ago,
And you're still going back out and doing the same thing. Because you got revoked on October 4th of 2010 because of the new charges that you have now.
this wasn't the new charge. This was the old charge in Jefferson Parish.
Yeah. Either you're deliberately not understanding what I'm saying or you just don't understand. My point is, every time you've had a chance to get out of prison, you have gone back to committing the same crimes over and over and over again. Correct?
Correct.
And my question is, why?
Well, first of all, I never got a chance to get any help or learn or find out what triggers me to do these things. Now, since I've finished all these programs and these classes, I learned the triggers, what trigger me into going use drugs or deal drugs or whatever it takes.
So what's the trigger?
Triggers is, all right, just like recently with the parole board, I was set back 3 times. Normally, it would have triggered me to do some things that I shouldn't do, but I stayed focused and stayed positive, and I learned from that. And I listened to the tools that I learned from in the classes and the books I read and everything, and I applied them, and it kept me away from anything negative.
What program do you think helped you the most?
I'm gonna say several of them, but the main one that I think helped me most was victim impact and thinking for a change.
Okay, well, let's talk about victim impact. What you learned?
Learned that my actions created a ripple effect with my whole family.
Okay.
Everything that I do.
Just your family?
No, not just the family, with the community too and everybody around.
Well, how do you feel about the fact that you were putting cocaine and heroin out into your community? How do you feel about that? What do you think about that?
I feel during the time I didn't have a feeling about it, but now I feel that it's bad. I feel that I was wrong for doing what I did. I take full responsibility for it. If I could go back and change it all up, I wouldn't do it.
So victim impact, and then what was the other class that think of a change?
Thinking for a change.
What'd you get out of that?
Got out of that I got out of that I got to think about it, think before I even react on anything that I do in life.
Okay. You have children?
Ma'am,
How many?
one daughter,
Okay. And how old is your daughter?
15 years old right now.
How do you think your life of crime has impacted her?
Yes, ma'am, it impacted her a lot. She haven't had her daddy in her life, none of her life. So she's doing good in school, and I'm proud of her. But you know, she won't talk about it, but I know it affect her that me not being there, her just having her mom.
You got your GED while you've been incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am, I got my GED and I got a college degree.
You got an associate's degree from Ashland University, and what was that degree in?
Business and general studies.
Also, I see that you have participated in Drug Dealers Anonymous. Tell us about that, why you're enrolled in that, and what you got out of that.
That class there, I got a lot out of that. It just taught me things. And it taught me a few things about selling drugs, why people sell drugs, and the mindset that they be in when they be doing what they be doing.
Share that with me. What mindset allows a person to do that?
I think that's a selfish mindset. I think that's a person thinking about his own gain instead of thinking about how he affecting the community and everybody else around him.
I'm glad you started to see that. Also, you are in work release or not?
I was in work release in Slidell.
And you're breaking up. Tell me.
I was in work release in Slidell,
Uh-huh.
Slidell, Louisiana, on Production Boulevard Street, I think. I was
Why are you not in work release now?
because of the sentence that I have, and Jefferson Parish came, got me and sentenced to me what I'm in there for.
That's right. That's right. Well, when did you work at the garment factory?
Well, I work at the garment factory right now. That's my current job.
Okay. How long have you been at the garment factory?
I've been there over a little over a year, almost a year and a half.
Because we have a letter of commendation from the plant manager who says you're a hard worker and you're a model inmate. So that's a good thing, and encouraged to see that. You had a write-up in 2018. You had some write-ups in 2018.
Yes, ma'am. That was the last one I've had.
I know, but tell us about it. What was going on in 2018?
But in 2018, you know, the prison system that stopped the cigarettes and stuff.
Okay, because you had a 30C. Do you know what that was about?
That was general prohibited behavior. They had stopped the cigarettes in the prison system, and I was trying to purchase some cigarettes from a guy that was on a whole nother unit. And brought to him bringing the cigarettes and things to me, he got caught with it, and he told him they was for me.
Okay. And in February, it was like February 14th of 18, you got a contraband. What was that about?
I think I got caught with a cell phone on my bed.
Okay. You're a peer facilitator for going home, staying home.
Yes, ma'am. I used to facilitate that class.
Okay, how long ago did you do that?
Did that, it was before the pandemic, in 2017. Did it for about 3 or 4 years.
You've got letters of support from lots of family members who tell us good things about you. You also have opposition from the district attorney's office, Mr. Randy Meyer, who submitted a letter, and he's actually on the Zoom call today. So he has some input. So there is opposition. There's opposition from law enforcement. Obviously, given the impact of the crimes on the community. Warren Meyer, what can you tell us about Mr. Ellison?
Well, Mr. Jackson, personally, I'll talk about some of the good things. I mean, he has obtained his GED and associate's degree. A lot of good classes: nurturing parent, living balance, cage raised, thinking for change, inside outside dad, impact. He's done some good things. He's a Strive member here. Is as you know, our honor system. So he's achieved that. Does work in our garment factory. I knew Willie from DCI whenever I was there, Warden Turner and myself both. And he's done much better since he's been here at this facility with us. As you mentioned, he hasn't done a lot of time on this sentence, and it's also my place. I got to remind Willie that he did tell you the truth about the cell phone, but the other one, at the write-ups here, because I asked him about it too, and it wasn't tobacco, but also included in the package that he was having smuggled in was 2 cell phones and 12 bags of synthetic marijuana. So I'm not happy with him for not disclosing that. I asked him about it himself, and told me tobacco as well. So he's coming along. He's done a lot better. It's been 5 years since he had a write up. I have to say that, but I think he has a little work to do.
Well, thank you, Warden Meyer. I appreciate your input. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Now we'll hear from your father, Mr. Willie Ellison Sr.
Yeah.
Sir, if you would mind going up to that little podium there and giving us your name and tell us what you'd like us to know.
Else. All nobody else. We moved in a neighborhood. And where all this going on, I don't know. I didn't know nothing about it. I just they youngsters give food around here. Doing grown up soup. And next thing I know, he was doing the same thing. I tried to talk to him about it. And I never knew, that he was involved with it. Talk to him, I talked to him, didn't do no good. So, but we're good kid. Went for that. And never had trouble on him. No more than that. We got trouble with some drugs. I see it out there. I'm 64 years old. I mean, 84.
Different there, sir.
And, I've been around places, around people, move here and move there. Yeah. Kids get back, listen. When they're younger, they won't listen that. And when they get into it, you into it too. Grown up, I know he's a good guy. With school, where he was, got his diploma, got you've done good there. Why should he be down here? And I need him out here to stay with a couple of ladies. She ain't bad cheap, I'm in bad cheap. It's our whole, our last names. you know, we have the help now. You know, Grant, the parole, I appreciate it much. Because he gave me more trouble. I don't think it will, you know, I can't put the stick on it and back, and back. You do it out here. You know, stay with us.
Thank you, Mr. Ellison. We appreciate your comments, sir. Mr. Willie Ellison Jr. Is there anything you'd like to say before we turn it over to Mr. Harrell? Oh, I'm sorry, but we have Mr. Myers that needs to speak. Mr. Myers, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Randy Myers, Assistant DA in Jefferson Parish. Yeah, I'm opposed to Mr. Ellison at the moment. You know, I was listening to what the warden says, and I like to take the warden's opinions, consider those very strongly, and he thinks he's not quite ready yet. Looking at his prison record, I would agree with that assessment. You know, he's got a risk assessment that's moderate, but it's high for substance abuse. He's had, I think he took living in balance. I think a long-term substance abuse program would help him immensely. And I think he has, you know, limited programs. I think additional programs that would allow him a better opportunity when he is released, because he will get out early one day. But I think some additional programs would really help him for when he does get out to stay out. And you know, that's what we'd like to see when he does get out, that he stays out. For those reasons, we're opposed to his request today. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Mr. Ellison, is there anything you'd like to say to the board before we turn it over to your lawyer?
Yes, sir. Like, have a problem with my voice. Yes, sir. I would like to say thank y'all for hearing us out, hearing my family out. You know, since I've been here, I know when I was young, I did a lot of crazy things. Now that I got older, I done learned a lot. Just trying to go home, take care of my mom, my dad, and my daughter, and be there for them. I don't know, too much else that I can say to say whatever, but I'm asking for help. Y'all can help me. I'm all right with that. That's all I want to say.
Mr. Harrell, are you ready to close out for us?
Yes, I am, and I appreciate your time. I'm going to try not to go over any of the items that have already been covered, but maybe to touch a few things that I haven't heard yet this afternoon. Of course, you are aware of Mr. Ellison's educational accomplishments, the programs he's taken. I did not hear anyone mention that he does have employment that's been offered to him. It would involve janitorial services and dishwashing at a local restaurant in Orleans Parish. I've confirmed with the restaurant owner that Mr. Ellison is welcome. I also did not hear, and perhaps it is in your materials, that Mr. Ellison does have a residency plan. He would be living with his parents if released. I've also reached out to the first 72 plus, spoken to them. Upon his release, Mr. Ellison would be welcome to begin the initiation process, the eligibility process. They would welcome him into their program. They do offer at an absolute minimum, I think it's a 9-week to 10-week program that he would have to be regularly involved in. That includes mentoring, counseling, and other forms of assistance to help him get back on his feet. They have more intensive programming as well, if those become necessary, including transitional housing, wraparound services, assistance with substance abuse problems. So there are some alternatives for him, and I have spoken to Mr. Ellison and I've spoken to his family about those alternatives and making sure that if he was released, he would have access to that. He would have support in getting to and from the places he needed, and he would have some assistance. So he's not out there trying to adjust to returning to society without assistance and support, both from his family and from folks like the first 72 plus. The other item that crosses my mind that I think is really imperative when we look at Mr. Ellison's case is his procedural legal history. I think it's relevant and it's complicated. I'm not going to go through all the details, but I think it is pertinent for this board to understand that the original plea agreement, as I believe it to be from my review of his records, both in Jefferson Parish and his extensive appellate appeals and opinions, the original sentence that Mr. Ellison was facing was a plea agreement to 2 concurrent terms of 15 years for these offenses. That sentence was conditioned on Mr. Ellison returning to voluntarily surrender himself on the date of his sentencing. He did not make that appearance on that date. He did appear a week later with documentation that his daughter, the daughter that's 15 now, who was an infant then, had undergone medical treatment at a local hospital, treatment that occurred the same day as the sentencing. However, because he missed that sentencing date, his sentence was exponentially increased. So I think it's important to understand that at some point, Jefferson Parish District Attorney's Office, Mr. Ellison and his attorney, the judge and the 24th JDC all felt that 15 years adequately served the needs of the community, protected the public, and punished Mr. Ellison for his conduct. The subsequent enhancement of that was not originally intended. Nobody felt that was necessary at first, and it has been suggested that it's even somewhat retaliatory. That's not just me saying that. I know in the many appeals that Mr. Ellison has gone through, both Chief Justice Johnson and Justice Creighton had strong reservations about the excessiveness of Mr. Ellison's sentence, calling it inhumane, calling it unconstitutional, and a great expense for Louisiana taxpayers. I say that only because I want the board to consider the possibility that maybe Jefferson Parish, maybe the district attorney, maybe the 24th JDC were correct when they considered a 15-year sentence all those years ago, and that so many additional years have been added because of one lapse in Mr. Ellison's conduct and his failure to appear for his original sentence, and notwithstanding that he showed up voluntarily just a week later. So I hope that that factors into the board's considerations in this matter. And if there's any other questions you have for me, please let me know. But I thank you again for your time and consideration regarding Mr. Ellison.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harrell. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Ellison, 50 years is a long time, but you do have a long criminal history also, and it's not overlooked that. But I just feel like you're not quite ready. You have started to make a really good turnaround. You really have. You've done some good things. You're continuing to do some good things, and I'm glad to see that. But I do think you can benefit from a little bit more programming. The warden believes that there's some other programs that will be helpful to you. And so and I believe your day is coming. It's just not going to be today, because I think you have some more work to do. But my vote today would be to deny because you have a moderate risk score. You need more programs, and you have a poor supervision history. But I want you to, work with Board Meyer, accept his suggestions and his help for the kinds of programs he thinks you need to take. Get in those programs, don't get any write-ups, continue to stay write-up free, and then apply again when you're eligible. But today, for me, not the day, but I believe the day is coming.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Wise?
Mr. Ellison, I've listened intently, and it was just great to see your parents. They've been here all day. They even had to endure a fire alarm and all that to be here today. I am very hopeful for you. My goal is to grant, after you complete the long-term substance treatment program with Steve Moore, and then continue on supervision. And I think you got high needs in substance abuse. That's something you really, really need to address. But that is my goal, sir. Best wishes to you.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. Mr. Ellison, you have one vote to grant conditionally and one vote to deny. I believe you need a little more work. I think that you need some more programs. I think you're on your way. I think you're very close. But just as Ms. Jackson says, today is just not that day. My vote likewise is to deny, but encourage you to take some programs and reapply when you're eligible. And I suspect the next time your vote will be different. But today, for today's purposes, your parole has been denied. So good luck to you.
Okay, let's unpack that. I'm not surprised by the denial. I felt that it was coming. Although his interview was kind of a roller coaster. At first, I thought he was just sinking. It was pretty much awful. And then it started to like improve in the middle when he talks about the programs he does, and then you kind of start to see this, like he's intelligent. He has a good head on his shoulders, and he's talking about how the programs affected him and more of just like I thought it was decent. And then you hear the great commendations from his boss and how hard of a worker he is. And then you hear his family, and then you hear the warden, and you're like, okay, that was it. That's done. I mean, to have the write-up of smuggling in Mojo and 2 cell phones and not being honest about it. He has been locked up 13 years, which is a long time. And the 50-year sentence thing that his attorney was talking about, we'll get into that. I was actually looking at, and thank you, Richard, for sending everything over. I was looking into it during the hearing, and it was actually interesting that I was going to bring it up anyways. So I was happy that the attorney brought it up. The idea that he got the 50-year sentence as retaliatory, so to speak. And did any of you catch the joke that everyone started laughing? I had headphones. I was listening. The one that the parents made a joke and everyone laughed. I didn't catch it. If you caught it, please put it in the comment section because I'm actually curious what it was. But let's go here. So this is his appeal. And what it was, like the attorney said, he had a plea deal. And with the plea deal he got, he'd basically be almost out by now. And so we'll just go through what happened. But the fact here it states that so here's his appeal. Whoops, gosh, I'm on the wrong. Oh my gosh, I'm on the wrong. I got too many. So with my new setup, I'm a little bit, as you can see, not as organized as I would like to be because this is the wrong appeal. Hold on, let me just pull it up. Luckily, I have it in my spreadsheet. It's really nice. So a lot of what Richard does is, for the most part, it's not, there are some things that he puts in a decent amount of time, right, to find the research, because some things are not easy to find. But for the other things that, for another way that it helps me is just having it already in, like he sends an email with the defendant's name, the information, and any relevant links. So all I have to do is go in my inbox, search the name, and it pops up, and it's all there. And it's really helpful because when I see a name in the docket, I can then just search and find out what they're in for. So are they a cockroach? Are they, And then it just saves me a lot of time. So I really do appreciate it. Oh, I did have the right one already, actually. It's just I had the oh my gosh. I just keep clicking the wrong link. No, this is the right one. So there are multiple appeals. Let's go to the appeal. That's where I messed up. I had the right link. I lost my place on the appeal that I wanted to discuss. And I'm sorry about that. I had it bookmarked, but for some reason I lost it. Here it is. Okay. So here it is that basically the defendant had agreed on a plea deal. And the plea deal was to receive 5 years imprisonment of hard labor for each count to run concurrently. And the state agreed to waive its right to file multiple offender bill of information against him. After pleading guilty, the defendant requested a delay in sentencing so he could get his affairs in order. The trial judge agreed to this, which is quite nice, like oftentimes you see they just won't do that. So the trial judge agreed, and the agreed upon sentencing was contingent of him appearing for the scheduled sentencing. The trial judge informed the defendant that if he failed to appear, he could receive the maximum sentence. In fact, even charge you differently in this case. Do you understand that? I could just imagine the judge sitting there and saying, I'll take it easy on you. I'll give you the plea deal. I'll let you go home and take care of everything. I'm sure things are tough, whatever, I'll be nice. But do you understand? Yes. Do you understand that I can even give you new charges or whatever? Yes. He acknowledged it. Despite the trial judge's warning, the defendant failed to appear for sentencing the scheduled date. Thereafter, the trial judge imposed a greater sentence than was indicated in the plea agreement. Additionally, the state filed multiple appeals against the defendant and received an enhanced sentence of one of the counts. The defendant, so I don't feel bad for him. And his attorney goes out and says this could have even been retaliatory. Well, yeah, it was. I mean, if you want to use those words, the judge literally said what he said. And just show up or this is going to happen. And he didn't. And I'm really, the judge was left with no other choice but to give him a 50-year sentence. So normally I'm screaming off the rooftops about these 50-year sentences. They give Chomo a 5-year sentence. They give, it's like he should have just hurt a child because he would have been out. He would have been out by now. But in this case, it's different. In this case, he took advantage of the judge and the judge had no other choice. And it's like, what do you expect, dude? Seriously, what do you expect? The immaturity and it's just so and then the idea that the attorney actually uses this is, I guess that's what attorneys do. He knows what he thinks the board is going to go and pull out this guy's appeal. But in this case, he did it to himself, frankly. He earned those 50 years with his. Now he did have a certain circumstance, but still it doesn't. So the defendant filed a motion to withdraw his guilty plea, which was denied. This court held in trial court not error, denying the defendant's motion to withdraw his guilty plea, finding that the defendant was informed of his rights and the consequences of his plea, and the plea had been entered into knowingly and voluntarily. So he was saying, well, I withdrew my guilty plea. And they said, no, you can't do that. And he's saying, well, I'm going to appeal because you said I can't do that. And they're saying, no, you can't. This is not a game. They note again that he had failed. That's why they gave him the greater sentence. The trial court specifically told the defendant, if you don't show up, or if you show up late, then I can sentence you as freely as I want, okay? The court expressly stated to the defendant's sentence would not be 10 years with a boot camp recommendation, but rather it'll be more like, what are you looking at without a bill? You're looking at 65 years. The state can multiple bill you, which would increase that substantially. The defendant stated that he understood. I mean, this judge, he didn't give him the 65 years. He only gave him 50. And the judge, really, he did everything. The state also clarified that in the agreement not to file a multiple bill against the defendant on the defendant's appearance. All you have to do is show up, Man, when the defendant subsequently appeared, the trial sentenced him to 30 years. When the defendant failed to appear for sentencing. And then when he eventually did appear, they sentenced him to 30 years with 2 years to be without benefit of parole. The trial court, well, they did 50 years, so. Why do I feel like I'm hearing. Oh my gosh, I watched so many of these parole hearings. I could have sworn that I just heard Mr. Marabella yelling in my microphone, in my headset. But yeah, and then basically they state, well, his daughter had just gotten out of the hospital from surgery, and that's why he couldn't make it. And they said that, and the judge is like, this had nothing to do, it's just. So the defendant argues that his infant daughter had undergone surgery and had just been released from the hospital. In response, the trial judge stated, counsel, I have no idea what the fact that his daughter was hospitalized had to do with anything with regards to him tendering a plea of guilty. The court believed that he made a knowing, intelligent, free, and voluntary act of tendering the plea of guilty. I know what the problem is now for Mr. Ellison. Mr. Ellison was told that he was to come back to this court and he was supposed to report home to incarceration. That's not a basis in this court to mind with the withdrawal of his guilty plea in either of these matters. So the court is going to deny your motion, and the court will note your objections in my ruling to these matters. Yeah, 30 years on count 1, 5 years. Yeah, so they 30 and 20 years for 50. And again, his daughter, that is terrible. That's awful. But the judge still had no choice because, it's just, in this kind of case, it comes down to you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. What was he going to do? Going to make mockery of the court? That's what you're going to get as a 50-year sentence. Anyways, I feel like I'm beating that horse to death. How do you feel about it? what do you like about the setup? What can I do to improve it? And also, if you like the multiple hearings, if you do like the multiple hearings, I created a playlist. It's called Multiple Hearings, and you can click in there and get where we do these. They're kind of longer, an hour and a half, 2 hour long, 3 different, sometimes 5 different hearings. But please do the YouTube thing, the algorithm thing. It helps a lot. And with that, I'll let you go.